Good evening, everyone. I am Zina. This is Beating Around the Books. It is Friday evening at 7:45, and I think it was appropriate to have a beer. Whatever, I wanted a beer. I am doing my recent reads, I guess. It should be a Friday reads, but I'm pretty sure it will not be actually uploaded today because I've already uploaded a different video today and I don't want to go crazy with them. And also I might not edit this early enough. But since the last time I talked about the books that I had read, I have finished 4 more books, which was in March, so I thought I may as well finish it up before I properly commence the April reading. So, my last 4 books. First one was a book that I have taken quite a while to read, considering its very relatively short length. And it is We Need New Names by NoViolet Bulawayo. I think this book suffered from the setting in which I was reading it. It was more, to do with me than with the book that I took so long. Ultimately, I enjoyed it quite a lot. It was not a 5-star read. It's more like a 4, possibly verging on 4.5, whatever. But maybe let's talk about what it's actually about. So, could you not? Oh wow, he might have actually listened to me. The cat was clawing at some cardboard. Anyway, what is this about? So this is it is set in 2 different places. We start off in an unnamed place, but I think it's supposed to be Zimbabwe. And we follow a 10-year-old girl named Darling, who, together with her friends, is living in a shanty town called Paradise, which is everything but paradise. And her and her friends get up to all sorts of antics. They go into richer areas of town to steal guavas and stuff like that. And that sounds all very delightful and funny. And there is a lot of humor in here. But, of course, there's also a lot of heartbreaking and very, very harsh stuff in here. I would say, oh my God, excuse me, I need to stop. Bandit, please don't. Huh? Please don't. But you can say hi, because we've said hi. The other one said hi. Oh, hello. Hello. How are you? You want attention, don't you? Anyway. So, okay. So there's harsh things. The reality of their lives is very, very harsh. Some of these things, Darling, the 10-year-old protagonist, is able to see and to express, and others she isn't, because she's too young to realize certain things, what is actually going on, what she's observing. But of course, as a reader, you are aware, so it's quite hard-hitting sometimes. One thing that she does, talk about quite frankly, and she's obviously aware of, is the hunger. So the whole guava stealing thing sounds like a funny thing, but they're doing it because they're fucking hungry. And they're doing it despite what gorging on this fruit all day will do to them in terms of digestive issues and stuff like that. So that's, that's pretty hard-hitting. Then there are themes of, I guess, dispossession, sort of political upheaval, and how it affects the lives of these people. Because what she talks about also is that she was not actually born in that shanty town. She was, uprooted with her family after some political upheavals, and they had to just leave their homes. Well, their homes were destroyed, and they had to just leave and, set up elsewhere. And those parts, there's some parts in this novel that there are 3 parts, 3 very short chapters that are written in this sort of collective voice of the people. It starts with people who live in Paradise. So it and then the second one is also about people in paradise. I think one is called How They Lived and How They Arrived. And then the last, I can't remember exactly what they're called. And then the last one is about people who have been uprooted even more in terms of having migrated to a different country. And their experience being in that new country and being in a way isolated in this new society where they can't relate 100% to the people where they live at, but at the same time also feeling a disconnect to their previous home because, you know, they can't quite connect with people from their home either properly. I don't think I'm doing a very good job. But yeah, so that's one part of this. Then in the second half, what happens is Darling gets to go to the US. And of course, when she gets to the US, she realizes that it's not everything. How do you say that? Not everything is gold that shines, or something like that, or the other way around. And the next part then is talking about her in the US, and it's more kind of, it's more narrated in these sort of broken up vignettes. It's more fragmented. We don't really see sort of a straight line, like a chronological line or anything like that. She's still, she's aging, but we jump quite a lot, and sometimes there's quite large chunks. And that one I found slightly weaker, that part, although I will say some of the most, I guess, I don't want to say profound, but some of the most touching observations I found in the second half, where she talks about this experience of being an immigrant. And even though, of course, she comes from a very different background, it did make me think about my own mum and how she must feel, or, well, how I know she must have felt at certain times. And, it also made me sort of go back and question a bit, sometimes my annoyance with her, trying to keep up certain traditions, or also keeping in touch with other people of the, East Asian diaspora. And that was kind of, touched upon in here, and I thought it was done quite well. So ultimately, I would say this is definitely a strong recommendation. I'm not saying it was the absolute perfect read, but it was really good. And I'm assuming I would have probably read it a lot quicker if I hadn't started it right before hospital, because I just couldn't really build up the momentum when I was reading it. But yeah, I think maybe it would definitely warrant a reread. Okay, that took a long time, excuse me. Then let me refer to my list, because I've forgotten the order. I think the next one that I read was an audiobook. Oh my goodness, where is it? Oh yeah, I finished an audiobook that is completely outside of my wheelhouse. It was called Death by Dumpling by Vivien, Chien, I think. So the title already suggests that this is a cozy mystery. I have never read a cozy mystery. In fact, I have rarely ever read any mystery to begin with. But I stumbled across a different book from that same series, which had such a hilariously silly pun in the name that I had to go and look at it. And, so the name was Dim Sum of All Fears. I know some people might hate it. I love it. I'm not a dad, but I like dad jokes. So anyway, I had to go and look it up. The first in the series is called Death by Dumpling. And since this was an audiobook on scribd, the risk was basically, zero, apart from me spending a bit of time listening to it. But since I listen to audiobooks whilst I'm doing other things anyway, that's also not a huge commitment. If you really hate it, you just delete it and listen to something else. So I thought, I'll give it a try, and I did finish it. Now, I'm not sure that cozy mysteries are gonna be my thing, but I've only tried one. And there's certain tropes that, even though I don't usually read these things, I felt like, yeah, you can see that from a mile away, and it's a bit too predictable. But there were other things that I really enjoyed about this, and one of them was the fact that the protagonist is actually a half Taiwanese woman. You know, I think she's in her mid-20s, mid to late 20s. I'm half Taiwanese. I think her dad, well, he's white, but I can't remember whether he's actually English and then they've moved to the US, or I can't remember. Anyway, so this sounds silly, but it made me, you know, it delighted me when I heard it. So what is this about? Sorry. I've forgotten the protagonist's name already. I'm not very good with characters' names, but she is a 20-something woman who I think has run into some sort of trouble with her previous work and has since then started working in her parents' restaurant, a Chinese restaurant, which is situated in an Asian mall. And in this Asian mall, a murder happens. Surprise, surprise. And she is in some way implicated, or her and the restaurant are implicated. And because she can't believe that, you know, well, she knows that she hasn't done it, and she can't believe that the people in the restaurant could have had anything to do with it. And because of that, she decides that she must, of course, find out who the murderer is for herself. Plot ensues. It was fine, but it was not amazing either. It was, for me, it was, the middle of the road thing. It was 3 stars. A few bits that I really enjoyed had nothing to do with this being a mystery. It was about the whole half Taiwanese. One of the reasons was that what to some people may seem like a stereotypical representation of her mother and some other people around her, to me actually felt like, yep, you're hitting the nail on the head there. This sounds like my mom. Not all of it, not 100%, but a lot of those things. I was just like, yeah, that's how blunt they are. Or, you know, the women in my family anyway. So I don't know, I was just delighted by that. And that's probably why I also forgave it more flaws than I would have done otherwise. Yeah, if you're into cozy mysteries, why not give it a try? Then the next one was also an audiobook. It was Nisha Dolan's Exciting Times. I had recently gotten a bit of a craving for millennial fiction with my last 2 books that I talked about, Milk-Fed and already forgotten, oh yeah, Luster. So I thought this one was also available on Scribd. So again, very low risk. And yeah, listen to the audiobook. The narration was really good. I really liked that. You know, the accent kind of brings it a bit more to life and whatever. So what is it about? It is about Ava, a 20-something, it's also like early 20s, I think 22, 23-year-old Irish woman who moves to Hong Kong, or who has moved to Hong Kong. She works as an English language teacher. She is apparently not paid very well, although she's certainly paid a lot more than a lot of locals. And she is kind of floating around a bit, not really knowing what to do with herself, to be honest. And she meets this guy who is a super rich banker and who she starts having some sort of weird, unattached kind of relationship with, or not a relationship, you know what I mean. It's very weird. He is incredibly privileged, of course, and he always has been. And that can be very grating, especially when it then comes to his friends that she gets to meet. But I did not think that this was like, you know, privilege that was being described uncritically. To me, it seemed more like, you know, a commentary on that. Because I've read some reviews that like hated this book because of that. Not only because of that, but also because of what they deemed to be casual racism. And I felt like all of these things were done in a way to comment on it. But, you know, that's how perceptions differ. Yeah, I feel like I can't really do the book justice in this video. What I really liked were, again, sort of really wry, witty observations about, you know, the current state of the world, which seems to be a thing now. I've just realized, I think I've said this about this, well, the last 3 millennial novels that I've read. So clearly something is speaking to me here. You know, I am of that generation, so maybe, yeah. Then, what else was there? I did like, so there's also a lesbian, or I guess bisexual, I don't know, is it? Well, it's an LGBTQ relationship, which is kind of lovingly portrayed, but then there are certain bits where I wasn't sure about it, but it didn't have anything to do with actually being a queer relationship. It was just more about the protagonist and how she was viewing this other person. Anyway, I can't really do it justice, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. I think I gave it 4 stars. Yeah, and then lastly, I read The Enchanted April by Elizabeth von Arnim. I read this as a buddy read for March of the Moderns, which was hosted by Margaret Pinar. We also did a very long live stream discussion with her and with Angie from Literary Labours. I'll put a link down below. This was very delightful. I don't know how often I said this word now. It was really good to sort of ring in the spring. We read it in the last week of March. This is about 4 disgruntled women in London in the early 1920s, who kind of almost by chance, not by chance, but, you know, through sort of a bit of odd circumstances, get together to rent a house, or well, actually a castle in Italy, where they will spend the whole April, because they are just fed up with their lives in London, for very various reasons. Like they're very different characters, and I found them delightful. Even the ones that I didn't like were really funny to read about. It's incredibly light-hearted and very, very unrealistic, but not in a way that made me not enjoy it. I don't know, it was just really delightful. Yeah, the nature descriptions of all the flowers that were blooming in Italy, it was just very dreamy and made me want to go travel again, but of course I couldn't. But at least, you know, it gave me a little sort of taste of what it might be like to be in Italy in the spring. Yeah, also I guess can't really do it any justice right now, but yeah, just look it up if you're interested at all, or have a look at our video discussion. We did have spoilers in it, however, Margaret put spoiler warnings on the screen. I'm sorry, the cat is going crazy again. Margaret put spoiler warnings on the screen, so, you know, you'll definitely get warnings. You won't just get spoiled if that's a thing that is a problem for you. But I don't think there's that much to spoil in it, because the plot isn't really, well, the plot is, but it isn't. For me, it was more the funny, delightful characters and sometimes even in their cantankerousness being really funny, and the setting that made this really like a fun read. Yeah, that's it. What will I read next? Well, I've talked about that yesterday, so I'm not gonna bore you with that again. Yeah, if you've read any of these, especially if you have read Exciting Times or We Need New Names, I would love to hear your thoughts on them. And yeah, because Exciting Times, I really liked it, and then I read these really disparaging reviews, because sometimes I like to do that, and I'm still not convinced by them 100%, but I can kind of see maybe where they come from. So I would love to hear anybody who has read it and what you thought of it. So please let me know. And I hope you have a lovely day whenever you're watching this, weekend, whatever. And I'll see you soon. Bye bye.